So this week I have felt like I'm a little bit of a high-speed car in a school zone in the fog. Welcome back to Fits and Foundering. I'm Amy and this is where I wear my favorite outfit from my app, Styled by Tailor, and I talk about whether I'm foundering, actually running a business, or doing a little bit of floundering, aka getting caught up in all of the chaos that means. And there's a little bit of a hint that that's normally a combination of both. So this week we are talking about living in the ambiguity. But before we get into that, as always, a little moment for the outfit. I'm dressed head to toe in red. It was Chinese Lunar New Year 2 weeks ago, and it is one of my favorite holidays. And so the outfit was so good, I had to wear it twice. So being fully head to toe in red does make me really happy. It's one of those colors that just bring out such a vibrancy. Maybe it's my Leo energy, maybe it's just the color I feel most at home in. I also am wearing a new top from Mango, which I bought a few weeks ago, so it all just feels really good. So a very belated Happy New Year to those that celebrate. I'm wishing you a year full of prosperity and of course good outfits that make you feel alive. So the year was a really big shift for me, and I won't go into the full details of what happened publicly yet, but let's just say there was a lot of stuff going on with work, relationships, obviously setting up Tailor as well. And it was tough, but from everything that happened, there was a lot of growth that went on, and I do feel now in my being that there's just this opportunity to really blossom and come out of all that real challenge and step into, I don't want to say who I'm meant to be because it feels so cliche, but I definitely feel like I've got a bit more purpose in my step, and the word of this year for me really is blossom. So stepping in and owning it and becoming more main character energy that I feel like I can become. The year helped me really acknowledge a lot of my values, my perspective of the world. It helped me reshape how I move in this world and in relationships as well. And as I say, it wasn't an easy year, but it definitely gave me a lot of perspective on what it is that I actually want and what I'm willing to accept and what I'm willing to do to actually get there. And that does lead quite nicely into our topic today of living in the ambiguity or living in the lesson. So we've started this new year, and for me there was just a whole lot of living in the grey, living in the ambiguity last year. And if I'm being completely honest, it is not where I thrive. I don't know a lot of people that do, love living in this unknown sector. I do know a few and I admire them so much, but I certainly am the person that needs a bit of structure and process in life in order to really thrive. So my analogy of the fast car in the school zone kind of feels like a reflection of that, where I'm trying to push forward and get out of the fog, get out of the slowness in the school zone. But I think last year in life, and particularly now where we are with Tailor, I'm being asked to sit in the ambiguity of everything, and it makes me deeply uncomfortable, but I think it's also a really, really good lesson for me to learn. And honestly, I think life has challenged me throughout the years to really understand what balance means, and rather than skipping steps, actually taking the methodical process to get there to make sure things are done properly. I am definitely a natural sprinter as well. And so what I mean by that is I will often skip those steps. I will go, okay, here's where I am. I can see the vision of where I want to be, but I don't think I necessarily need to do all the stuff in between to get there. I know that sounds very classic Amy for those that know me. And look, it works well in some circumstances, but there are others in which I need to take people and myself along for the journey and make sure the things in between are done well. And that is part of making this series for me as well. Fits and Foundering is an opportunity to share the journey and the messy middle of when I don't really know what's going on. But a prime example of that this week, where I have tried to jump from where I am now to finished product, was around our website. So I text my dad being like, hey dad, need a website, here's something that I've coded on Claude, it's got the sign up sheet, can you just slap it on the URL? Which, is doable, but it wasn't great. Like the actual website looked rubbish. And so I said, I've sacrificed pretty for getting something up because I don't want to keep sending people to an Airtable to sign up. It would be better if we could say, which we now can, go to styledbytailor.com, and that will give you the link so that you can actually go and sign up for early access when we release it. And so I looked at this website, it wasn't cute, and we didn't have any of our copy. It's still very much a work in progress. So I kind of created this interim thing that I went, oh, this will work. But the language was so unclear. And I think because I was in the thick of it, I didn't really see any of this. And so I've gone, I just need a finished product. I don't care what it looks like. The website and for the brand, it's really important that we honor those steps in the middle and give it some more thought and clarity, even while we're not like fully launched. All of that stuff with the clarity and the perspective and the branding and the colors will come, and we're having so much fun working through a lot of that, but it's not ready yet. And so what does it look like in the interim? And so we had to turn to what is it that we know about the app right now. So we know what it does, we know why we built it, we know a lot of the features that we've added, we know the things that don't work as well, but we know that it's an AI-powered digital wardrobe. It allows you to catalog your clothes and create outfits that perhaps were combinations of things that you didn't already knew exist in your wardrobe. And its purpose is to give you main character energy. It's the opportunity to step in and blossom by harnessing your self-expression. And that's kind of what we know right now. I mean, we do know a few other things, but we're not pushing any more than that right now. And that's totally okay. And I don't know how many of you resonate with this, but in some circumstances in my life, I have the absolute patience of a saint. I will wait and I will be glorious and patient and just be really level-headed and calm and work through things. And then in other areas of my life, I'm like a high-speed train and I cannot stop. It's like I just want a rocket ship and I am so impatient. And the contrast is so stark. For anybody that's worked with me or has been in my personal life, I'm sure that you can understand the difference between those two Amy's. And I don't get to pick and choose when it happens, right? I think another example of this is trying to nail down the strategy and our social media. Like, how does the brand tie into the content and the art that we're creating and putting on social media? And for me, I just want to jump to the end, right? I'm like, okay, I just want to get going. I just want to make the reels, make some ads. I want to get stuff out into testing. I want to figure out what messaging works. And I want to start playing around with it, but I want it to have a foundation of a really structured strategy. And while we have that document and while we have that foundation, we are finding that because a lot of the feedback that we're getting from the beta testers is going to influence that strategy, that brand positioning, how we show up in market, and therefore what content we create, it is putting a little bit of a damper on the speed in which we can move, right? And we have these beautiful testers who have given us so much clarity on what it is that we should be doing with the brand and the app and features, what's been working really well and what still needs improvement. And the good thing is that they're actually helping us shape how we're going to run the business and how it's going to appear to the broader market, which is such a unique and beautiful thing to be able to kind of co-create this with a group of people that we love and trust. When we look at the feedback that we're getting, we're really trying to ascertain how we're going to differentiate ourselves in market, because there are other stylist apps on the market right now. And if people want to catalog their clothing, there's tons of apps in which you can do that. And for us, it's how do we educate people beyond that? How do we move from being stylish to being an expression of yourself because you want to do that? And how do you understand that that version of you exists in multiple different formats with multiple different colors and textures? And how do we help you go along that journey? I think one of the key things that I keep falling back to is this isn't for your stylish girlies. If you've got your style figured out, this isn't for you. This is for the me's of the world who are kind of going on this journey of going, who am I? Where do I want to blossom? And what does that actually look like? Please help me. And so our research and the initial feedback from the testers has given us enough conviction to keep going, to say that there is an opportunity in the market against a lot of the other competitors to open up this kind of white space area of self-expression. But what does that look like? Because they all do it in their own way. And so what we're trying to figure out is what is our little unique piece of the pie. And again, it's really hard to articulate that on social media, on a website, when you don't have the foundation of what it is. You don't know exactly what that white space is yet. We have a strategy on how we're going to run the business and how we're going to get there. And a lot of the brand positioning work is starting to take place, but it's not finalized yet. And so we're living in a place of ambiguity. We're living in a place of the gray area, and we're still waiting to understand what does this look like. And these things take time. You can't just write a strategy overnight, as much as I think my fast car living in the fog analogy works here, because I'm just ready to zoom past the school zone, zoom through the fog, get into it so that, we end up at kind of like the final stages. And bless Michelle, I appreciate having such an amazing co-founder who sometimes just says, yeah, but we just gotta wait a bit. So I'm working on it, but it's been a lot of interesting learning for me on a professional level, because it definitely ties into me on a personal level as well. And on that personal level, I have to be honest with you, it is something I struggle with so much. Balance is not my middle name. In fact, I don't know what balance is, and I am the masterclass of avoiding balance in my life. I really, really struggle to live in the middle part of things, because my Virgo moon and my want to drive the fast car is trying to put procedures and things into place that make it finished, make it final, but the car needs to be driven slow right now. And so I've had to remind myself that this week, slow does not equal failure. The fog will clear. We will get through this. And I say that as much to the camera right now as I say that to myself, because I'm still very much on that journey of learning and just wanting to make sure that it does come through in the beautiful way that we envision this brand to be. It's just going to take some time for us to figure it all out, and that's okay. And look, one of the things that I promised myself on Fits and Foundering was that I would share the messy middle. And, I don't want to come on here week on week being like, oh my God, it's so hard, when it actually is. But I do want to share where we're honestly at, and that will be challenging. That is going to take some time for us to move through the life journey that this is. And so some weeks I'm going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And other weeks I'm going to be like, oh my God, this is so hard. And all of that, I think, is really beautiful and a challenge for me as well. So I appreciate you listening. So we're now I came up with the idea for this last July. So we're now roughly probably 4 or 5 months into actually building the business itself. We kind of started development and started building the business towards the end of last year. So, everything is starting to take a little shape, but I have to remind myself that, because I keep feeling like I should be further along. See, there's that should word. I always say it, and I always feel like I put my own expectations on myself. I feel like I should be further along, and that is because I'm still playing the comparison game. I look at other founders, I look at other businesses, I look at people on Instagram who have built up amazing followings, or even who are in the process of doing that, and I'm like, oh man, I've only got this amount of followers, or I've already done this amount of posts. I play this game, which I think is really unhealthy for anyone to play, but I do think social media overinflates that by tenfold. So what I did this weekend and this week was, rather than playing the comparison game with people who are not at the same stage of the business that I'm at, I actually took a look at some of my favorite people on Instagram and some of my favorite brands, and I had a look at where they started. So I think one of the key examples, one of my favorite people on Instagram is Paizley Laura. I think she shows up so authentically herself, and her charisma and her energy is just so magnetic in the way that she doesn't get too serious with life, and she has a really good value system that just really aligns with mine. And so what I did was actually just scroll back like a total stalker to right back to where she started her brand, Peach Honey. And, back in those days when she first started things, she didn't have her amazing hairdo like she has now. And she didn't have hundreds of thousands of likes on her post. And I saw one that was just such a key moment for me. And I'm like, oh my God, you started here too. And it was because she had this reel, and essentially it said, hi, meet the Peach Honey team. I'm Paizley, the CEO, and then it was like, hi, I'm Peggy, the CFO. Hi, I'm Paizley, the social media. Hi, I'm Paizley, the marketing. And I know that that's still a trend in the founders kind of space on Instagram, but it just made me feel so seen. And I looked at the comments and I looked at the likes, and it wasn't hundreds of thousands. And I think there was just something really reassuring in that moment for me to go, you're on the journey, Amy. You can't just start at, big, bold, but you can just start. You can just open the door to the possibility of how this is going to work out. And every little step that I'm taking is going to get me closer to there, even when it doesn't feel like it. And even when it sounds like I'm standing in a pile of fog, just melting in the pressure of it all. I am on the way. We've started, and it's so exciting. So that's where we're at. And it's not really a destination, it's not really a place, it's a little bit foggy, it's a little bit unclear, but my voice just cracked in. It's a little bit unclear, that's because it is, but we're on the road. And so this week I asked myself, have you been foundering or have you been floundering? And honestly, I think the messy middle is foundering. I think this is what everybody is doing, and it's basically like a big life therapy session. And so for me, I definitely feel like this week has been foundering, and while we haven't reached the destination, we're sitting in the fog, and that's okay. What I didn't do was tap out when the going got tough, and I think that's a really important lesson for me. I've also been able to find some balance this week. I haven't been full on social mediaing, and I've really given myself the chance to actually just take a step back and limit the time that I'm spending and being really intentional about what I'm doing when I'm on social media. I've also had a helping hand, and thank you so much, Grace, if you're watching this, from Grace, to essentially help me edit a lot of the videos and take what I'm filming and turn it into a narrative that's a bit more compelling, because sometimes I do really struggle to synthesize the point. Can be a bit of a rambler, self-imposed. But honestly, I think this life lesson, what I'm realizing is there's a lot of parallels to foundering and to life, because I think there are times where we sit in the messy middle of relationships, of work, of situations, of moving, of living, of doing all these things that are very normal life things, but we live in the ambiguity and we want to get to the end, right? Like we don't want to sit in the messy middle, but the messy middle is where all the growth happens. It's where all the beautiful things come through. It's where you get to learn things like balance and, put into practice the years of work of trying to ascertain how to do that, which I still haven't figured out, so any tips, let me know. But you get to put all of this into practice, and what emerges is this proper blossoming, and I'm really excited to know that that's on the horizon, even if we can't see it right now. So if you are listening to this and you're in a similar position, either in your business, in your life, in something else, just know that you've got this and you're not failing. And I know it sounds really cliche, but where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. And I hope that message resonates, because I am saying it, as I said before, as much to the camera right now as I'm saying it to myself, because it's one of those things that, I think sometimes we all just need to hear. So keep going. You can do this, no matter how hard it is, and no matter how long you can't see the finish line and how long you need to live in the fog for. You will get through this, and there will be a sunny day on the other side of it. You've just got to keep going and learn to dance in the fog. There's something quite cool about it, and mystic and beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Fits and Foundering. It was lovely to see you all. Lovely to see you all. I don't know where that came from, but much love.